Welcome to a Starter and a Chaser podcast with your hosts, Jon Passow and Mari Heaney.
So, do you know what you would get charged with in the zoo if you got caught stealing a cephalopod?
No, what?
Squid napping.
Welcome to another episode of a Starter and a Chaser podcast.
I thought it was funny.
I am Jon Passow.
And I'm Mari Heaney.
And Mari, who is quick with the dad jokes, can be followed on Instagram at
drams.with.mari.
Thanks for filling in for Joe, by the way.
Thanks for having me.
And I gotta thank you for turning me on to what we're about to review here. Hampden Estate Rum Fire.
Woohoo.
Rum Fire! I'm so excited about this one.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about Hampden Estates.
So they were started in 1753 in True Jamaica, and their techniques haven't changed since opening the doors.
Yeah, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's over 200 years?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Quick with the numbers,
Not
this guy.
so much.
Another fun number here is their wood fermenters are actually 100 years old.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that after 100 years of having things fermenting in it, it would be kind of rotten away, but not the case.
Yeah.
Now, Rum Fire is got two styles in one, basically. It is first and foremost an overproof rum, and second is a dunder style rum. This one clocks in at 126 proof. Now, explain to me and our viewers, what exactly is an overproof rum? Because that's something you hear thrown around a lot in the rum industry.
Yeah, so an overproof rum means that it's going to be higher than your typical proof. So an overproof rum qualifies if it's between 110 and 151 proof. One of the most common labels that we hear is Navy strength rum, which simply was a way to get concentrated rum bottles onto the ships to save space. And supposedly sailors were supposed to drink, only their certain allotments, their certain rations, but it just meant they drank as much as they did on shore and got drunk that much faster.
Drunk like a sailor.
Yeah, so like you said, this is sitting at 126, so it's right in the middle of that 110, 151 range.
Now, this is a high ester rum, and the reason for that is because it is a dunder style. Now, for those that are familiar with whiskey, dunder style is basically just sour mash. They take, typically rum is inoculated with a standard yeast strain that has been cultivated and it ferments in 24 to 48 hours. Whereas dunder style is kind of two things. First, in order to ferment it, it's all wild yeast. So if you go to Hampden Estates, you'll notice that they've created kind of their own microclimate in there where there's yeast and mold on the wall, and that is what inoculates the sugar water, and it ferments anywhere from 10 to 14 days instead of 1 to 2 days.
And don't be scared by the fact that there's mold on the wall. Buffalo Trace is very proud of their mold on their walls.
Exactly. And a lot of Belgian breweries are the same way. The Lambiqueries in Belgium, it's just, you walk in there, they're like, but that's what gives the spirit a lot of its character. So this long fermentation, these esters that are created by the byproduct of wild yeast fermenting, and the way that they distill in the pot stills, they distill it, and then whatever's left in the pot still is added back to the next batch of spirits, basically.
Very similar to making sourdough, if any folks picked up bread making during quarantine.
There you go. And so that acidifies the mash and creates a lot of complex flavors. And that's what we have right here, dunder style and overproof.
Yeah, high ester is just kind of an industry way of saying it's a punch in the mouth with some flavor.
That's short and simple. I went long and unnecessary.
It's a balance.
It's a balance. Thank you for the balance. Speaking of the nose, is it balanced on the nose?
Absolutely.
What are you getting?
So there's lots of sweetness there. You get your mango, you get your pineapple. Maybe a little passion fruit, some molasses, of course. But there's a lot of herbal things happening here, too. So I'm excited to dive in. It's one of my favorites, as you can see, or maybe you can't see. It's very clear. It is in my
Absolutely.
glass, though. Christelle Harris from Hampden Estates actually said, that at one point it was thought that clear rums should be passed on the shelf there for our grandfathers, for, old men, but it's really not true. This rum fire is so special, and thank you, Christelle, for coming out and being, sharing that with us, because I think that's true in the whiskey industry a lot, where, people say that's for somebody else to drink, but, take a chance on this bottle.
And speaking of passing this on the shelf, I mean, if you look at this, upon first glance, you would absolutely pass this up on the shelf. I mean, it looks like some sort of $10 plastic bottle, but if you pick it up and look at it, the label's got a nice UV coating on it. The glass is actually thick glass. The cap is a nice, strong, well-built cast. The cap, it's actually a good packaging.
Yeah.
Except for the label is kind of looks a little cheesy. But that's okay. That's part of its charm.
Yeah, it's a lesson that we all learn. So thank you, Christelle. Hampden Estates is doing great things. Yeah. I'm excited to dive into this glass here.
Never judge a spirit by its label, right? Well, cheers. And if you know what they say in Jamaica when they toast, be sure to leave it in the comments below and hit subscribe.
Multilingual, this podcast.
What about education? This is so cool. This is such a unique product. I'm going back for a second one.
I mean, it's pH funk. It's so dark, so dank. Lots and lots of mango initially. What are you picking up?
This is going to sound off-putting, and I recognize that, and that's my disclaimer, but it's actually not. The following phrase really works in this. It's as if you had taken rotten mangoes, covered them in honey, took them to the gym, ran a couple laps, shoved them into your gym sock, squeezed out the juice, added molasses, fermented it, and then drank it. It is the blue cheese of rum, and like blue cheese, the funkier it is, the better the cheese. And this is funky, but this undercurrent of tropical fruit and honey mango and papaya and Brettanomyces, wet dog in a phone booth, and just it's crazy that all these things can be in a rum and work and be good. What are you picking up?
Yeah, I mean, all those same notes. More pineapple on the palate than the nose. But a note that I'm finding in here that I'm really pleased with is there's even some butterscotch in here.
Really? I would not have figured that would happen in a rum. I figured that more whiskey-ish.
Yeah, but it definitely is represented here. I mean, it's so funky in all the right ways. It really, really is. The best word to describe rum fire is funk.
It's like, what is this? That's my way to describe it. And by the way, Valhalla Imports is the one that imports this into America. They're based out of Seattle, Washington. And we got this bottle here in Cleveland at the Giant Eagle in Solon. It's also in Simone's Beverage.
has it too, yeah. So if you're in Ohio, go pick it up. It's only like $22. Yeah,
does not break the bank. Hampden Estates Rum Fire. What are your final thoughts, Mari?
I mean, it's so fun. I'm so grateful to my friend who introduced it to me. I'm so grateful that you enjoy it just as much as I do. I mean, it really is something that challenges and pleases your palate in the most unexpected way. It's so tasty, and it's good on its own, and it's also good, of course, in any sort of tiki cocktail that you want to make.
Ooh, I gotta try this in a painkiller. That would be cool. This is like a paradigm shift for me for what I think rum could be or should be. I mean, this is so it's very much rum, but it is just this completely other animal that is so fascinating to me because it's got this dichotomy of two flavors that you wouldn't think would work together, that completely does when you try it. If this is any indication, and from what I've been told, it is of what Hampden Estates does. They're kind of considered royalty in the rum industry, from what I understand. I have to try more of their products because this is absolutely incredible. And if you want to try something mind-blowing that is gonna, you're either gonna hate it or you're gonna love it, get rum off. You're gonna love it. Get Rum Fire. So that is today's episode of a Starter and Chaser podcast. Thanks for filling in for Joe, Mari.
Thanks for having me. Thank
you very much for watching, folks. Be sure to hit subscribe. And now I got to go make sure my cephalopod is still in the tank.
It's not.
Spoiler alert.